The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. I'm Tim Donnelly, live from Pinehurst. The 124th U.S. Open, the 1,000th USGA Championship starts tomorrow. We've been experiencing the practice rounds, the work on the range, the practice greens throughout the entire day, and we'll be passing along some of that knowledge, some of that insight from here in Pinehurst as the show goes along. Dennis Cox will be out here with me at the site of the U.S. Open. He'll actually be at times during the show on location, out tracking down insight in real time and sending it back to us here in the media suite. Graham Hill back at the studio, keeping us up and running. Here's what I have to say. After there's going to be details. Okay, I am as big of a golf nerd as you all can imagine. And I don't often, because when you host a sports show, you have to at times talk about other sports. But when you are at the location of the 124th U.S. Open Championship, I do feel like that gives you a little bit of leeway, a little bit of leash to really golf nerd out. So I will be doing that throughout the day. But let's start with the most obvious. Right. If any golfer walked the course today, and I know there are many of you that have made the trek out here, and some may even be listening on your way home. If you made the trek out here and you walked around, you know this course is ready to bite. It has some teeth to it. There's a billion different examples of this, but I saw one specifically. It was Will Zalatoris, obviously one of the best, most talented golfers in the world, played his golf at Wake Forest for college. He was playing the 18th hole. I would happen to be kicking around the 18th green. And when I tell you he had a nice approach shot, right? Looked soft on the landing, probably about 25 feet short of the hole in his approach, but firmly on the green. When I tell you it did not stand a chance. The moment it touched the green, every one of us that was there was like, that's rolling off. And sure enough, it did. And then depending on where you go off of a green, you could end up in some fairway. You could end up into like a chip or putt decision. You could end up in ankle deep, thick forest, right? And that's tough, right? The rough is thick. The greens are fast. For an overall reaction of the course so far, here's the world #1 golfer and the overwhelming favorite, Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, course is great. I mean, in good shape. I think the areas around the green are extremely difficult to play out of. I think the golf course is going to play pretty tough this week, but it'll be a fun test. I think the golf course is great. I mean, it's extremely challenging. I don't really think they have to do too much to trick it up with the way the greens are if they want the scores to be high, and so it should be a good test and a fun week.
That's the #1 golfer in the world, who's, by the way, destroyed just about everything in his path the last year and a half. And he is honestly saying this is going to be a really tough challenge. It's funny, right? There's this movement in golf media that some are embracing and some are hating. And what that is kind of the propping up of the common man, right? You can go on and find some of the best YouTube golf content creators are shooting 90 or 100, but having fun and making it more accessible and making it more okay for everyone to participate. And then there's this elitist group that's like, no, you have to wear long pants and tuck your shirt in, and everyone has to speak in a whisper, and there's no drinking or music on the course. I think the U.S. Open is kind of a combination of that, because what it does, and when the course is going to play as tough as it is this weekend, there's going to be really, really good golfers that have no choice but to laugh as they shoot a high score. That kind of like, well, what are you going to do? I thought that was a good shot. Thought I put it on the fat part of the green. It ran off and I 4-putted. I was surprised how little trouble I saw walking around the course. And what I mean by that is not the course doesn't have trouble. Players were mostly able to put it middle of the fairway, little off center. And to me, that's just the pressure cooker hasn't been ramped up yet. If the pressure cooker gets ramped up, major championship golf, and that left center of the fairway becomes just off the fairway, you are in for a treat. I stood in some of the tall stuff that made it difficult to see your toes. It's a mental test as much as it is a physical test. It is. It is a grind. It is a mental grind. You cannot take a single hole off. You cannot take a single shot off. That's what I learned walking around the course today. A few other things I learned walking around the course today, and this is one of my favorite things about the U.S. Open, because it is a traditional Open and you can qualify, is the gap between us, meaning weekend hacks, and the elite golfers, the Scotty Schefflers, the Tiger Woods, those players. I feel like we all comprehend how gigantic that gap is, right? Of course, they'd smoke us, right? Just like LeBron would beat us in basketball. The U.S. Open has players that qualify for the Open who are either mini tour players, semi-pro, maybe professional, amateurs that qualify. And when I tell you, like, I'm walking up and down the range this morning, and I mean, I can name drop for you, and I will because it's fun. And there's Max Homa, there's Tiger Woods, there's Scotty Scheffler. They're all out there at the same time. And then there'll be someone I don't recognize, and you watch them for a couple shots, and they are unbelievable. And you have to go into the little program to figure out who they are, and they are unbelievable. It's not just the elite of the elite. The everyone here is unbelievable, including our very own Dennis Cox, who, as promised, is out on the course somewhere. I'm back here in the nice air-conditioned media suite that they've provided us with, the USGA, and Dennis is out somewhere on the course. Dennis, where are you? What are you seeing, and what can you tell us?
Well, I'm actually here on the practice range because there's some guys that I've never heard of just absolutely hitting nukes all the way. I think it's somewhere in Chatham County, I think is where some of these have landed, Tim. The way these things are going is absolutely insane. The way these guys can mash a golf ball. Again, I don't know who this guy is right here behind me. I have no idea. There's some guy named Fitzpatrick over here. I don't know him.
He's a major champion. Does Fitz look good?
Well, I think he hit one that still hasn't landed yet. So yeah, he went about 475. So yeah, these dudes are just out here crushing it. And again, it's the guys that you talked about. The field is just stacked, and just the level of play from just in golf in general over the last 20 years is just skyrocketing. You can name like 40 guys and you'd be like, yeah, I could see that guy could win this thing. That's the amazing thing. You come out here and just watch these guys, even just on the putting green. It's just, it's amazing what these guys can do. And just the course is awesome, by the way. The conditions are fantastic. And I think a lot of guys are going to be like, yeah, this is a really fast course for a reason. But man, these guys are just, yeah, like that Fitzpatrick guy, the major winner. He's just out here just crushing golf balls because he can.
Give me like how hard is Fitzpatrick working? I always like to look at the range and see who's like, just casually staying in tune or who is like grinding to like fix something. Like it's hot out there. Is there a large sweat pool?
Well, I can't give you a perspiration rate here, Tim. I'm not that close to the action, but there's some guys here that are actually you can tell actually working on their short game and stuff, which I think is going to be a vital thing here on this course. I know a lot of guys are talking about getting onto the green and actually sticking your landing on the green because the greens are so difficult. So you actually see a lot of guys working on their short game here on the driving range. So that's actually something we've seen a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that can tee the ball off and hit it a mile, but you see a lot of guys actually working on the short game here at the driving range a lot. That's actually what I've seen the most is people working on chipping and working around the greens, things like that.
Dennis, we appreciate you. We'll check back in throughout the show, and if you want to come join us back here, feel free. Enjoy the air conditioning.
I might hit the 18th because that's where champions win.
There you go. This is The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. To build off of what Dennis was saying there with the short game, this morning early, I got out to the course, and it was really fun. I watched Wyndham Clark and Phil Mickelson working on a little side practice putting green. So it wasn't the main gigantic putting green. It was a little side one. And I thought it was interesting. Phil was hitting probably 40 footers. They had the pin pulled out, and he was almost asking, like, was that short? Was that long? Because it was such a long putt. But also, guys like Phil, they usually know right off the putter face a lot about their putt. And he was genuinely asking some questions of his it was either swing coach or caddy that was fielding them for him. So there's some unknown on these greens that these guys are really working to figure out today here at Pinehurst, the site of the 124th U.S. Open Championship.